Hello, welcome to What If Deku Had All for One and Was Betrayed Part 8. Last time we left off after Deku's rescue of Eri. Takedown of Overhaul and the absolute defeat of the heroes sent on the mission. With that out the way, let's begin. Now with Eri in his custody, Deku explains to her how his organization works, explaining how they have a dream to make their utopia reality, a world where no one is forgotten. So, no one has to suffer the way they did. Deku then asks Eri if she wishes to join, if not she can just live a peaceful life protected by him. After careful consideration, Eri agrees to help, however she does not wish to have to hurt or kill anyone, so instead she will act as support by healing or helping with experiments. Her normal day entails of 6 hours of education, 3 hours of quirk training, and the rest is relaxation / leisure time. After realizing Eri rarely ever smiles, Deku decides to take Eri out to have fun after training. While having lunch at a cafe near UA, Deku notices a potential ally, exiting a tea shop, so tells Eri to continue eating with Kota while he takes care of some business. Walking up to the man, Deku outstretches his arms, calling out their names, Gentle Criminal and La Brava, stating he has heard lots of great things about them. He then informs them that he means them no harm, but instead a potential business partnership. Intrigued but running out of time, Gentle Criminal explains how he would love to stay and talk, however he is on a very tight schedule. Deku then says, oh yeah, you plan on breaking into UA during the festival. Shocked, Gentle Criminal asks how he knows, but Deku chuckles and explains that it was simple, from investigating him. He had learned that the brand of tea they drink correlates to the difficulty of their next mission, and they were just drinking the elusive Golden Tips Imperial tea, were they not? Deku then expands on his train of thought, explaining that it must mean that they are planning something big, and it just so happens that today is the UA festival. And UA is just around the corner from their current location. Gentle Criminal is left shocked by Deku's mental prowess, stating that he is just as intelligent as the media describes him as. After thanking Gentle for the compliment, Deku explains that he has scouted him and his little disciple as perfect members for the League of Villains Reformation Squad. Deku then says that the only reason he does his YouTube videos is to reach his dream of being famous, explaining that by joining up with him, he can easily reach his dream. Noticing Gentle considering the offer, Deku then says that while digging for information about him, he learned that he was a hero hopeful before being rejected after accidentally harming a hero and a civilian while trying to save them. Isn't it a tragedy that someone with such a perfect quirk for heroics was rejected because of one mistake? After offering to open and fund a tea brand for him, Gentle eventually agrees to join, however refuses to kill. And would rather not harm females as it isn't very chivalrous and goes against his morals. Deku then introduces them to Eri and Kota, deciding to join Gentle in his visit to UA. Despite UA having Tartarus-level security, the combination of Deku and La Brava's hacking allows them to enter undetected. To make sure they are not noticed, Deku activates his Presence Erasure quirk along with Refract to make them practically invisible from all angles. Deciding to split up, Deku goes to 1A's performance to watch Kyoko, while Gentle and La Brava film their video. Wanting to stir up some trouble, Deku deactivates his invisibility after arriving at the concert, however they aren't noticed due to the density of the crowd. After the song is over, Deku smiles, having seen the brightest smile in the world from Eri, asking her if she would like to say hello to his sister Kyoko. After she said yes, Deku activated Air Wall to create platforms in the air for them to step on, standing just above the stage. After finally being noticed, Bakugo and a few other 1AM members prepare to attack, however they are stopped after being threatened by Deku. Deku explains that if they make the slightest attempt to harm them or notify the authorities of their presence, he blow up all the students below them, enlightening them on what he was doing while they were performing, demonstrating it, throwing a rock into the air, clicking his fingers making it explode. Explaining that he made contact with at least 50 students, meaning that he can blow them up at any moment. Seeing their uneasiness, Deku explains that they don't need to worry as for today he is no threat, and therefore should be treated like a big brother taking care of his siblings. Pointing to Eri and Kota. After the tension cleared up a bit, Deku introduced Eri to Kyoko, with Eri complimenting her beauty. Deku then asks her if she is partaking in the beauty contest, with her confirming. Deku then explains that if so, she should probably start to get ready soon if she doesn't want to be late. Before she leaves, Eri wishes her luck. They then visit all the stalls, buying tons of sweets and food for Eri and Kota. After having lots of fun, Deku realizes the time, stating that the beauty pageant should be starting soon, so they decide to make their way there, getting front row seats by scaring people away. First off, was a stunning show of talent and beauty by the first 6 contestants. Then by Bimi from the support course's Time to Shine, dazzling everyone with her parades, in which she moves around the catwalk in a golden robotic vehicle she modeled after her face using her skill as a support course student. The presenter considers his performance stunning, although most students and Deku are clueless about what's going on. Finally it is Kyoko's turn. As soon as she stepped on the stage, everyone was mesmerized by the elegance of her flowery red dress, followed by her use of her quirk to dance sophisticatedly and gracefully in the sky, creating a rose in the air, leaving everyone speechless by her beautiful performance. Because of this, it was no surprise that she won by a large margin. After the contest was over, Deku left Kota and Eri in the capable hands of Kyoko as he had other business to attend to. Warping to Class C's haunted house, Deku secretly creates an audience with Shinso, offering him an opportunity to team up with him, explaining how they have somewhat similar lives as they both wanted to be heroes but no one believed in them due to their quirks being perceived as villainous. Deku then goes on to say that in this current society, even if people tell you that there is no such thing as a villainous quirk, and that it depends on how you wield it, they will never really believe that, referencing to All Might. He then goes on to explain that it isn't necessary for him to openly fight for him, he only needs to support his plans in the shadows. Unsure, Shinso decides to think it over, so Deku leaves back to Eri, handing her a candy apple, which he had made after stealing someone's stall and ingredients. Sufficiently happy about the day, Deku tells the UA students that since he is so kind, he will not blow up anyone, thanking them for the fun. However, next time they meet, if they are still heroes in training, he will probably have to kill them. Now with Eri adequately motivated to train, Deku introduces her to life sample, starting with plants, then moving to rodents and monkeys, until she could finally control her quirk's strength enough to heal people without turning them into fetuses. In November, the Japanese hero billboard charts are released and like usual, the high-end hood is released to fight the strongest hero, nearly beating Endeavor and Hawks. However, after a close fight the heroes win. A few weeks later, the Meta Liberation Army challenge the League of Villains for the rights to rule, seeing them as a potential threat, so Deku sends the League of Villains Reformation Squad, and his Nomu to fight them while trying to kill as little as possible as they share the same ideology, so should unite under a single leader, that being himself. Meanwhile Deku travels to Nabu Island to take care of 9. However 1 AM was already there under a Hero Commission sponsored work study, and failing miserably at dealing with 9 due to Kyoko not giving it her all. Just before 9 kills everyone on the island with his weather manipulation quirk, Deku arrives, acting as a lightning rod, amplifying it with power up and returning it straight back at 9, shooting him out the sky. Enraged, 9 demands to know who did it. However Deku appears in front of him, punching him in the face, standing on his chest, calling him a failure and nothing more than a power-hungry monster. Deku then activates cell activation on Katsuma, explaining to 9 that he is too late as he took that quirk over a year ago, and while it is true that he has a few spare copies, he is unworthy. Not wanting to give up his dream, 9 states that there can only be one true ruler, activating all his quirks in a desperate effort to beat Deku. However Deku uses shock absorption to nullify it and reflect to send it straight back at 9, who desperately tries to activate air wall to block it, but Deku easily punches through it, snapping his neck, and breaking every bone below it, making him look like a grape with how purple he was from bruises. To be fair, his face didn't look much better either, as it was coated in blood and had brain matter seeping out of the skull. Deku then uses Overhaul to turn 9 into a defenseless disabled quirkless child, tossing him into the ocean, yelling, "I hope you know how to swim." With the immediate threat out the way, Deku asks Katsuma if he is okay, asking him where his sister is, with Katsuma explaining that without his cell activation, he couldn't help her, pointing to a badly wounded unconscious girl. Deku then walks over to her, placing his hand on her chest, using Overhaul to fix all the damage, and an energy transfer quirk to wake her up. As soon as Maru opened her eyes, she ran in between Deku and Katsuma to protect him, telling him to run away, while she stalls the big bad villain. However Katsuma grabs her, explaining that Deku-chan saved him and everyone on the island, and even healed all her damage, giving her some of his own energy. Maru says that that still doesn't mean he isn't a villain, rationalizing it as him having ulterior motives. However Deku simply states that while it is true that he would love for them to join his cause, his main duty was to take care of 9 and to protect the innocent. Maru then asks how a villain can be so nice, with Deku explaining how the world isn't black and white, like how she has been taught her whole life. In reality there are many different shades of grey. Deku then explains his whole ideology to them, while healing the injured, and fixing up the island. He then asks them if they wish to join him in making his utopia, with Katsuma accepting and Maru reluctantly joining to protect him. Before leaving, Deku gathers up the UA students, with Kyoko, healing them, after tying them up, explaining to them how they are lucky that they survived and still have their quirks. Telling them that they should keep their eyes on their phones over the next couple weeks as he has a few surprises for one of them, warping away with Maru and Katsuma to his lab. He then warps over to Meta Liberation Army location, to find it in complete rubble littered with bodies and injured people. Observing the situation, Deku sighs, mumbling, "I thought I told you to kill as little as possible," going around, using Overhaul to bring Liberation members back to life, and to fix the city. He eventually finds Toga's bloody and beaten body, using cell activation, energy transfer and Overhaul to heal her, telling her she can have as much of his blood as she likes when this is all over. Appearing beside Shigaraki, and the prostrating Redistro, appointing himself as the new leader of the Meta Liberation Front, using quirks such as Charisma and Tranquil. Win the trust of multiple Liberation members. Now the head of the Paranormal Liberation Front, Deku invites all Liberation members to a secret speech under the Gunga Mansion, sharing his ideology and goals. Informing them that their first target on their mission to Quirk liberation is to deal with the Creature Rejection Clan, as by doing so there will be less segregation. And it will also bring them more support and allies. He then appoints Spinner as the leader of the Mutant Liberation Front, bestowing multiple quirks onto him after pre-preparing him with the surgery to manage them. After hunting the CRC for a week, Spinner and his team had successfully murdered them all, presenting their heads on pikes to the public. Telling all mutants who agree with their course to join them to prevent future imitations of Incident 66 and the massacre of Jeddah from ever happening again, so they can live in peace together. Because of this, the Liberation Army gains thousands of new supporters. Deku's next plan is a little personal, with the added benefit of inflicting scars on the Hero Society. With the help of La Brava, Deku hacks the news stations, and every device in Japan and the rest of the world, to broadcast his speech. Starting by explaining that part of his duties are to keep an eye on the future of Hero Society, and through this, I have made a most disturbing discovery, showing a picture of Minter on the screen. Deku then goes on to explain that the creature you see on your screen is first-year Hero course student at UA High, Minoru Minter. This 3'6.5" organism has a disgusting habit. One which is definitely not befitting of a hero. For one, his motive for becoming a hero is to gain attention from girls, which, while not being a valid reason, is not criminal. However, he doesn't just stop there. I don't know how he hasn't been expelled and shipped off to prison yet, as he is a safety hazard to every female. This thing is a certified pervert, who doesn't skip an opportunity to spy on girls. In a world oversaturated with heroes, how hasn't someone dealt with such a crime? Deku then states that some of you may be questioning whether what I am saying is a lie, so I have prepared several recordings of this miniature creep, in the act, displaying them on the screen. Inside the UA dorm, Minter is panicking, having been exposed to the whole world. However, his day gets even worse as Aizawa expels him from UA, and he is escorted to prison. Registering him a sex offender and charging him for abuse of position of trust, sexual assault, and voyeurism. Due to this, there are huge protests outside UA, complaining about the safety of the students, and how if it wasn't for the broadcast, Minter would still have been a student. Though Kyoko, Deku learns about the World Hero mission, and decides to take care of Humarize himself, collecting the case from Kyoko, easily finding its secrets. Finding the locations of all the bases and the disarming key. Not wanting to waste time, Deku teleports to the Humarize base, easily beating all the members, stealing the quirks of those who had them. Explaining how people who want to eradicate quirks don't deserve to have them. By this time, the countdown had reached an hour and a half, leaving Deku plenty of time by the time he reached Flecked Turn, using Reflect to return all the lasers fired at him. After using Appraisal on Flecked Turn to learn about his quirk, Deku is unsure of its full capabilities, deciding to test it by activating all his strength enhancers and shock absorptions. However, is disappointed when he instantly started pushing Flecked Turn back, eventually smashing though Flecked Turn's quirk's limits, badly bruising him and breaking most of his bones. Now sure that his quirk wouldn't be reflected, Deku activates All for One, to steal Flecked Turn's quirk, while explaining how the quirk singularity theory forgets to consider normal evolution. As people are already evolving to quirks, pointing out how pre-Quirk era people could never do the things Quirkless people can now, as well as informing him that he has already found a cure for it. Activating nectar to coat Fleck turn in a sweet substance, then using invertebrate cry to summon a swarm of flies, maggots and worms to devour his body as he decays alive, dying after a few hours of agony. Noticing Deku's hard work, Twice offers him 2 tickets to a newly opened amusement park, which ironically Deku owns, telling him that a member of the Paranormal Liberation Front gave it to him. But he has no use for them. Deku of course respectfully declined the offer as he is too busy, but Twice insisted, so Deku eventually gave in, however he still had no one to go with. Until Toga appeared out of nowhere, lacing her hands on his shoulders, begging him to let her go with him, with her trademark grin. Deku quickly realized that Toga wasn't asking to go, she was announcing she will go with him, so he had no choice but to accept. Toga then left the room, telling him she will see him on Monday morning at 10:30, in front of the train station. Dabi then ruffles Deku's hair, teasing Deku, saying look at our chief, going on dates during a time of war. Flustered Deku explains that it isn't a date and only a friendly get-together with a friend that happens to be a female. Off to the side, Mr. Compress comments, are to be young again, sighing. Still flustered, Deku arrived at the train station an hour early, and had to countlessly remind himself that it wasn't a date. 5 minutes before the agreed-upon time, Toga arrived, wearing her hair down, and a cute apricot turtleneck jumper dress with leather flats. Noticing Deku, she runs towards him, asking him if he had waited a long time. Flustered once again, Deku mumbles no, I just got here. Excited by Deku's reaction, Toga blushes, putting her hands to her mouth saying if you react so cutely, I might have to bite you. Now even more flustered, Deku turns his head, covering it with his hands, complimenting Toga's choice in attire, telling her they should probably get going or they will miss the train. As planned, by the time they got there, it was almost lunchtime, so Deku ushered Toga towards a cake shop, telling her that this is the best confectionaries shop around. And she is allowed to order anything and everything on the menu. They then sat down to wait for their order, and talked about their hobbies outside of villainy, however they ended up talking about the newly released documentary about the League of Villains and their allies. After 5 minutes, their cakes arrived, with Deku getting a Gianna's chocolate whipped cream cake and a strawberry sponge cake in case he didn't like it. And Toga getting a raspberry pink velvet cake with raspberry cream cheese frosting. After finishing half his cake, Toga asks Deku if she could have some of his, with Deku agreeing, pushing his plate towards her. However Toga just sat there with her mouth wide open as if she was awaiting something. She then tells him to feed her, still holding her mouth open. After explaining how he can't do that, he eventually gave in after Toga asked him if he wanted her to starve. While extremely flustered, Deku slowly moved towards Toga, feeding her a bite of his cake, with Toga licking her lips, expressing her delight stating that cake defiantly tastes better when fed to her by him. She then offers to feed him some of hers, but Deku declined, so Toga forced the spoon down his throat, asking him whether it was so hard. She then pointed out that he had a bit of cake by the side of his mouth, so he pulled out a handkerchief to wipe it, however Toga had already got it, licking it off his face. Flustered, Deku asks why she did that, with Toga smiling saying she wanted to taste it. Now done with the cakes, they decide to go on a few rides, such as a few roller coasters, a pendulum ride, dodgems, and a haunted attraction, however they ended up scaring the employees. They decided to end the day by going on the Ferris wheel, with Deku being too nervous to even admire the beautiful scenery below them. While leaving, they realize that today is the day of the Lights Festival, so decide to stay a little longer and explore the stalls. When they arrive, Deku gives Toga a perfectly tailored red spider lily yukata, telling her he had already prepared for the side quest, having already gotten changed into his own matching yukata. They then visit all the stalls, buying tons of food and scoring perfect scores on all the games, winning a collection of prizes for the other league members. Just before the fireworks began, Deku told Toga to secure a spot and to wait for him, while he quickly goes to the toilet. While he was gone, 2 of Deku's bullies from middle school and a female who is presumably one of their dates, walked up to Toga and started hitting on her. She instantly got the urge to kill them, however she managed to hold back as to not ruin the day for Deku, instead sharply telling them to piss off. Ignoring her, one of the boys, having a finger extension Quirk attempted to place his hand on Toga's shoulder, however Deku appeared, grabbing it. Recognizing them, Deku proceeds to advise them to get lost before they regret it. However they ignore him, and call him a useless Deku, continuing to try put his hand on Toga's shoulder. Recognizing the name, the female asks if he said Deku, starting to back off, with the other bully asking why she seems scared. However, Deku quickly informs them why, by tearing off their arms and compressing their heads until they explode. He then tells the girl to scram, using his telekinesis to push her away. Now coated in blood, Toga tells Deku that she has reached her limit, and leans in to kiss Deku, stealing his first kiss. She then pulls back and asks Deku if it was that bad. However, as the fireworks started to begin, Deku bites his lips, telling Toga that he won't let her consume the blood of another man, kissing her on the lips for a few seconds, but they are interrupted by the arrival of the police and pro-heroes demanding them to surrender. Deku then apologizes for them ruining the night. However, Toga reminds him that for them this is quite normal, pulling out her knife, and Deku activating a blade quirk, killing the pro-heroes and police. Okay guys, this is where I am going to end this part. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing, leaving a like and commenting, as it really helps with the algorithm. With that out of the way, this is Demon Saiyan saying bye.